it's like when you have a puppy, like you're with it every day and you don't realize how much it's growing, but someone that sees it 3 weeks ago is going to be like, oh man, it's gotten so big. But like with us, it was kind of hard to, recognize that we just stayed so busy and just kept grinding and everything just gradually got bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And then next thing you know, we're here and it's like, what just happened?
Hey, what's up, Pecos? How are you, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. I'm Adam. I appreciate you doing this.
Right on, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's Pecos, correct? I've watched like 4 videos and everyone says it wrong or different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's Pecos. Yeah.
That's what I
Thanks.
thought. Yeah. I figured when I watched the Trey Lewis podcast interview that one had to probably be correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm honestly used to it at this point in my life. It's been my whole life. So
I
it
bet.
just
Yeah.
is what it is.
So
Yeah.
I wanted to clarify and make sure I wasn't just totally, like irritating you the entire time. You're like, this dumbass doesn't
No,
even know how to
you're
say
all
my
good,
name.
man.
Killer,
No,
dude.
it's perfect.
Well, this is about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk obviously about the new album as well.
Okay. Cool.
Sweet. So the band formed in Texas. Are you born and raised in Texas?
Yeah. So I grew up in Northeast Texas, but we actually started the band in Lubbock, out where Texas Tech is.
Okay. Did you end up going to Texas Tech, or like what took you out there?
I went to South Plains for a little bit until everything kind of took off, and I was like, nah, school's not for me. I'm just gonna do
Sure.
this music stuff.
Yeah, totally get that. So what was it like growing up in then you said East Texas, Northeast Texas?
Yeah. So I mean, I grew up out in the country, like 10, 15 minutes out of town. Uh, we had land and uh, just rode four-wheelers and went to the creek and dicked around. And I actually grew up in a rodeo family, so I started doing that when I was like 7,
Wow.
and did that. I mean, that was kind of like what we did when we got home from school. We would just rope and hang out at the house.
That's awesome. So you would like do you still ride horses at all, or not as
A
much
little.
anymore?
It's kind of hard to with touring now,
Oh, I
but
bet.
I went. The last time I roped was December, and that
Uh,
was we went to Vegas, and they have this big like team roping finals up there.
oh wow. So were you pretty heavily involved in that then, I would imagine, for your
Oh yeah,
most of your life?
yeah,
Like contests and all that stuff you would do?
uh,
Oh
yeah,
wow. And what about
yeah.
like, I mean, coming from obviously rodeo and all of that, were you introduced to music at an early age, or do you come from a musical family at all? Does anyone play an instrument?
Not much. My mom's side of the family, when I was really little, we would go to church. My granddad was the music leader there,
Oh wow.
and my grandma and all my aunts and my mom can all play the piano pretty well, and they all sang. And so I guess that's definitely the first, like, I guess technically live music I ever heard was my family in church
Uh-huh.
singing together.
Did
But
you play piano growing up at all?
no, no,
Okay.
yeah, no, I never really got into instruments until like high school. I had a guitar when I was really little, but I was too young to really teach myself at the time.
Hmm.
So I just kind of like made a bunch of loud noises with it, and it pissed my sister off. And so I just kind of put it down. I was like, well, this isn't for me, I guess. I can't figure it out. And so I just quit until like the summer after my sophomore year of high school, I think, is when I really started trying to learn guitar.
Was there something that kind of drew you to that, or why did you decide to then pick up the guitar? Do you remember?
I don't know. I mean, I've always loved music and had that kind of in my heart. I've always had a passion for music. I just didn't know how to get started with it, and I always enjoyed kind of like singing off to myself.
Mhm.
And so I was like, I'm gonna try to learn some chords and figure out how to write a song, and or at least figure out how to play some songs that I like.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Were you writing once you kind of figured out how to play? Did you start writing fairly quickly? Like, was that something that you were interested in doing?
I probably didn't start writing until I was like 19 or 20,
Oh, okay.
really.
So
Yeah.
through high school is mainly just learning covers and singing along to those.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wasn't really that adamant about it. Like I would play every now and then just for
Mhm.
fun. Yeah.
And then when you went to a college, that kind of changed for you?
Yeah. I would say right before I moved out to Lubbock is when I was like, hey, I want to try to do this because my aunt was dating a local artist at the time in Paris, my hometown.
Mhm.
And he let me open up for him, just acoustic. I played like 4 or 5 songs or something like that. And after that, I was hooked. I was like, I like this. And so I started writing a little bit, and I got my first gig by myself in Commerce at the Drunken Mule. At the time, it was called the Drunken Mule, but place packed out, and it was just an acoustic show, and it was great. I mean, we had a great ass time, and that's when I was really hooked, and I was like, I really want to try to do this. And then I ended up moving out to Lubbock like a couple days later, I think, and I was writing there, and I already had my best friend had moved out to Lubbock, and his random roommates are now our bass player and our lead guitarist.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that's how I met them. And so we would always hang out at their apartment and jam and drink beers and uh, just play some music. And every now and then we'd try to write something, or I would write by myself.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, that's kind of how it all just kind of started. But it was hard to get any gigs or anything in Lubbock because nobody really knew who we were. We didn't have any music out, and we weren't really a band. I
Right.
was just
Yeah,
trying to
so
get some
nobody
like
would.
acoustic stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, real quick, back to I'm just curious on that first show that you played, you got to open up for your aunt's boyfriend at the time. Were you just
Mhm.
doing, like you said, you did 5 songs? Were they all covers, or did you have your own songs at that point?
I think I had like 1 or 2 that I had written that I played.
Hmm.
I probably had a couple that I wrote, and then I just did covers.
You must have got a
Yeah.
pretty good response. I mean, to then play the next show, and you said it was packed out, or you did, how did
Mhm.
and that was all originals at that point?
No.
Oh,
So that
okay.
was that was supposed to be a song swap that day. And the person I was supposed to play with, I didn't hear from him all day. And I'm like hitting him up, like, yo, we're still doing the song swap, right? Because it's like a 3-hour set. And I didn't have 3 hours of shit to play. I had like an hour and a half.
Yeah, you're like,
And
okay, I got half of it ready.
yeah.
Where the
So
fuck
I
are you?
didn't I didn't hear from him all day. And he finally texted me at like 12 or 1 and was like, uh, he was like, hey man, I got this birthday party I gotta go to. I'm not gonna be able to make it. And I'm like, dude, you could have told me that like 2 days ago.
Right.
And
Those
and
birthday
so
party
I
just
like,
didn't sprung on you this morning.
yeah. And so I sat there and learned like an hour and a half's worth of music before I played that night,
Oh my
and
gosh.
played for 3 hours, and I made like $700 or $800, and I was freaking ecstatic, man. I couldn't believe it.
Oh
So
wow. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, damn, to come up with an hour and a half of music like day of. I mean, getting a call at 1 p.m. and you probably played, early in the evening. I mean, that,
Yeah.
geez, was it, were you like, okay,
I
I
was
just got to figure
freaking
out
out.
yeah, just trying to figure out anything and anything you kind of knew the words to at that point?
Yeah. Yeah,
Oh my
exactly.
gosh. So you do that, obviously goes well, and then you make some good coin on that as well, it sounds like. And then once you had
Yeah.
moved, you had some other songs, and you'd go to your best friend was living with the current couple guys in your band, and you just show up there and hang out and would be like, oh, I know these songs, you guys just kind of jammed organically, and then this kind of
Yeah.
how the band eventually formed.
Yeah, pretty much. And we didn't really, start being a band until I put this damn song out.
Hmm.
And by that time we had a 5 bedroom that we all lived together in. And uh Kalen Davis, our bass player, he and I wrote this damn song one night, and it had already been written probably like a year before I decided to go record it.
Hmm.
And I didn't really know how any of it worked and stuff. So I spent my last like $700-800 to go record it and put it out. And we didn't promote it or anything like that. But before I put it out, I was sitting there like waiting to upload it. And I was like, we got to come up with a band name. And uh, the 5-bedroom that we lived at, we always had parties there and shit. And we'd always be up on the roof. And we wrote a couple songs on the roof. So we just found it fitting to name our band Pecos and the Rooftops. And so I typed it in and put the song out. And the first week it got like 10,000 streams on Spotify.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I was like, shit, I guess we're a band now. We need to start practicing and get a set together. And we took our living room or took our kitchen table out of the kitchen and put it outside on the back porch and put our drums in there and set up a little band spot and started rehearsing.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Once it went up on Spotify, do you know how it started? People started finding it. I mean, to just be like, okay, we're gonna be Pecos in the Rooftops, and here's the song. Let's just put it out and see what happens. And then for it to get 10,000 streams, were people just finding it, or was it just landing in the algorithm, or do you have any idea?
It was pretty much just word of mouth. The song's never been on a playlist, so it's just like, I guess people were just talking about it. And we had some friends, you know, we all had a couple of friends that we told, you know, hey, go listen to our song.
Right.
Or we had like put it on social media, and we hardly had any followers at the time. But I guess it was all just pretty organic.
Wow. And then obviously, I mean, that song has done incredible for you. But I mean, from being like, okay, now we got to be a band. Now you have a song, right? That's recorded, so you could go to the local venues in town and say, hey, you know, we're a band. Here's our song. Where you getting booked? Then after that,
not really.
Oh wow. Okay.
No, I mean, we were trying to not before, but I mean, I was just trying to get acoustic gigs before, and then we didn't really play any full band shows in Lubbock until everything really took off. Colby Cooper's manager at the time hit us up, and we did like a weekend with them. Before that, we played a show in El Paso that we got booked at this place called Ricky D's, and it's probably like 1,000 to 1,500 cap room, and I think 17 people showed up.
Oh.
And it was just that weekend was just weird too, because we got an Airbnb, and that was the first time I'd ever used Airbnb. And we showed up, and the house was full of like McDonald's trash and all this shit. And I was like, what the hell? Like nobody even cleaned or nothing. And so we're all just chilling, you know, the guys are playing this PlayStation, and all of a sudden the door opens, and I like go to the door, and this guy is standing there with like 2 or 3 kids and his wife. And I'm like, what the hell? And he was like, whoa. He was just as shocked as I was. And he was like, oh, I thought you guys were coming tomorrow. And I like held my phone up. I was like, no, man, we're coming today. Like, it says this day. And he was like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Let me clean up real quick. So he goes in and starts throwing stuff away. And his kids are just staring at the guys playing. They're playing the kids' PlayStation. So the guy like unplugs the PlayStation. I was like, sorry, I have to take this. It's my son's. And the kid's like, Dad, where are we going to stay tonight? And I was just like, bro, you cannot book your only house and just like hope that you can find somewhere for your kids to stay that night. It was just weird from the start. And then we played the show the next night for like 17 people and went back home. And then we did some shows with Colby and them. And that's when the touring started being like actual touring, you know, we were playing legitimate shows. But yeah.
Oh my God, that's funny. Yeah, the guy's like, uh-oh. All right, we're going back to the whatever, you know.
I was like, come on, man.
Whatever cheap hotel I can find. You love the ice machine, right? Remember how fun that was? You're gonna play with it again tonight. Like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's wild. Yeah. Oh man. It was
really weird. I felt bad.
I hope he discounted your stay. That's too funny, man. So did this damn song just started taking off? Like, I mean, obviously in the beginning you got 10,000 streams. You're like, oh damn, like now it's at hundreds of millions of streams. So
Mhm.
was that just based off of, okay, this song is doing well, we're getting some people interested, and it was just touring and touring and touring?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah, and then until we put our EP out in January of 2020, or yeah, 2020,
Mhm.
and then COVID hit like 2 or 3 months later.
Yeah.
And so like we slowed down a little bit for COVID, but we still found those smaller bars that were still open and doing half capacity or whatever. So we're able to stay on the road pretty much all the way through COVID. I think we took like a month or two off
Oh,
total, but
wow.
other than that, yeah, we just
Yeah,
kept rolling.
I was gonna say, because you guys had a lot of momentum going, and then COVID happens. You put out your EP, you're
Hmm.
like, all right, let's go, and then the whole world stops. But I'm glad that
Yeah,
you were able to kind of find a way to continue to get your music out, because I would imagine that, I mean, having to just stop once you have all that going, that would have been really,
yeah.
really rough. Not that
It
you probably
sucked
had to
there for
stop
a
for a
little
while.
bit, but
Yeah.
yeah, just for a little while compared to other people. I mean, we didn't stop very long.
Mhm. Wow. And then from there, like, you had the EP out, you just tore that for a while. I mean, you just put out the album, but I know you guys
Hmm.
signed with Warner in the midst of all that. Like,
Hmm.
how, like, from releasing the EP and then kind of coming out of COVID and being able to actually, tour a bit more into bigger, more capacity. What was there, like, a couple or a big milestone there that you kind of saw your career jump to the next level there, or was it just the amount of touring you're doing and just gaining fans that way?
Yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I feel like everything's kind of happened so fast that it's been like it's like when you have a puppy, like you're with it every day and you don't realize how much it's growing, but someone that sees it 3 weeks ago is going to be like, "Oh man, it's gotten so big." But like with us, it was kind of hard to, recognize that we just stayed so busy and just kept grinding and everything just gradually got bigger.
Mhm.
And then next thing you know, we're here and it's like, what just happened? But
Yeah.
everything
Wow.
just happened so fast over the past couple of years that it's been hard to keep track of, growth wise. But I mean, obviously we can tell that things have gotten bigger, but I don't know if there was like a defining moment of when that happened.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of, just sounds like just the amount of work you guys were putting into it. It was like right away you went all in, it sounds like. I mean, you're like, yeah, we stopped going to school. It was like, this is working, so we're just gonna focus on that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Um, so I know you recently announced that you guys signed to Warner, right? Like in March or something.
Mhm.
What was that
Mhm.
like? I mean, growing up, being a fan of music and, wanting to do this, to playing, a couple bar sets, and then a big major label like Warner Brothers wants to get involved. Like, tell me about how they
Mhm.
reached out to you and what was that like?
Um, so I guess they had been talking to Jeb, one of our managers, Jeb Hurt.
Mhm.
I guess they had been talking for a while, but the terms weren't, I guess, necessarily there yet. And we had
Mhm.
talked to some other labels and didn't really like their offers. So we just kind of like stayed on the road, kept putting music out, and just kept doing our thing. And I guess it was toward the end of the year, this past year, is when things started getting serious with Warner.
Mhm.
And they made us pretty much an offer that we couldn't refuse. And it was pretty much on our terms too. So it was something that we really liked and wanted to go forward with because they were really hungry to work with us, and they have a great team
Mhm.
from each end of the spectrum there. So I mean, they're all really hard workers and really excited about what we're doing. So that was the main thing for me, was just not getting put on the back burner if we were to sign with a major label, and not getting screwed over,
Right, yeah, or
Uh,
shelved or whatever, you hear those
yeah,
horror stories, but I mean, you
yeah.
guys have just not only worked your ass off, but proven that people dig what you're doing. I mean, you have a platinum record already. I mean, that's so amazing.
Mm.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. So obviously, without a label or anybody backing you, you guys were still able to do what you're going to do anyway.
Mhm.
That's really exciting. And so putting out your album, like you've got a lot of songs on that record, which is like not many people will come. I mean, you have like 16 songs on the new album.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good amount, right? I mean, most albums are about 10 to 12. You guys did 16. Were
Yeah.
you writing all the time? I mean, it's had been a few years since you put out the EP.
Yeah. No, I've been writing a bunch there for a little bit after the EP. I was in kind of a dry spot and just didn't really want to write. Like I didn't want to write about anything, you know. And uh I went to Nashville like a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago now,
Mhm.
and got in with a really small circle of guys there that kind of understood the direction I was wanting to go. And they're not your typical Nashville songwriters. And I really enjoyed it. So I mean, I went every chance I could last year to, in between shows to go write for this album. And it was going to be, I think, 12 songs originally.
Mhm.
And then last second, I went and wrote 4 more one week. We wrote 4 more and liked all of them. And so I was like, let's just put those in there too. And the label was like, yeah, I mean, feel like the more the better for your debut album. And I was like, yeah, all right, cool. So we just threw those in there and it ended up being 16.
Wow. A lot of labels wouldn't do that. You know what I mean? They'd be like, nah, let's scale it. Or they'd have like an A&R guy come in and be like, yeah, we're going to have to do this. Or like, it sounds like they were
Mm.
pretty hands off and let you guys do whatever you want.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And our
That's
A&R guy,
huge.
Miles, is awesome about that stuff. Like, he doesn't really put any kind of pressure like that on us at all.
Because yeah, I've had other artists on that, that have either been with the label and left, or was like, yeah, the A&R person or whoever wanted this sound, or they made us use this producer and it just wasn't working, but we had
Mm.
to. Or I mean, to be able to just do what you guys are doing and then obviously um show that it works, that's like a huge
Mm.
victory. When you
Yeah,
guys
man.
when you signed with Warner, or even before that, did that change the songwriting process, or like how did that change from maybe not even being on the label, but like going from that first EP to then your debut album and coming out to Nashville? Was that like a different process when it came to like recording the album or writing the songs?
Not necessarily. It wasn't necessarily Warner that changed
Right,
that
just
process. It was like
in general.
we were already kind of doing the Nashville thing, doing the co-writes, and the guys are still writing. Like my guitar player and my bass player wrote Cabin Fever, one of the songs on the album.
Oh wow.
And but I mean, like Warner didn't really try to change anything in terms of like the creative process or anything like that. Miles, our A&R guy, was like, uh, he was like, "Hey, would you want to work with this producer?" And it was Brian Howes, and I mean, he wrote part of Lips of an Angel and worked with all kinds of people. Like he's an awesome rock producer, and so I did a couple songs with him. But Andrew Bayless ended up producing the entire album. And I mean, he's the shit if you haven't heard Andrew Bayless. But going forward, I'm going to keep working with him for
Oh, that's
sure.
cool. That's cool.
And I wrote a lot of the songs with him and Michael Whitworth. But yeah, Warner hasn't really tried to change anything to do with that.
That's cool. Yeah, I wasn't sure if it sounds like, I mean, this is kind of a new venture as far as getting with them. And you probably
Mm.
were recording the album for a while before that. But even if not, it sounds like you guys kind of had an idea what you wanted to do anyway. But coming out to Nashville,
Mm.
I'm in Nashville now. I don't know if you guys are still in Tennessee or in Texas, but I came
Mm.
from San Diego, which is it's so different here, but I absolutely
Oh
love it. And
yeah,
there's so many amazing songwriters here. It's crazy.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I love it here. I did see that did you recently get married? I think I saw on your Instagram. Was that pretty recently or not a whole
I
lot?
got married No, I mean, I guess it is pretty recent. We got married in March of last year.
Oh,
So
okay.
we've already been married like a little over a year now.
So when it came to writing these songs, did that change your perspective at all, or writing during the album, or had you already finished the album, or I don't know if that would ever even change the way you were
Um,
writing?
by the time we got married, I'd already had a couple of them written, but I mean, no, I don't think it changed the songwriting,
Okay.
really.
Yeah, I don't know, because you'd be like probably in a more happy space. I don't know.
Yeah,
People's emotions
yeah,
change. I guess it
right.
depends on where you're pulling from.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
No, I
I
mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're good. I don't know. I just there's something about writing sad music for me. I love it.
So do I, man. I love it. Even if I
Yeah.
was, yeah, and I love what you're doing. I mean, just the style and the like kind of like I don't give a fuck attitude is really rad. And I don't think you see a lot of that anymore as much.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah.
it's really cool what you're doing.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, and you've just got off a tour. You're doing some other dates coming up as well, right?
Yeah, we're leaving back out Thursday. Um, I guess we're technically still on tour right now because our bus is in like Colorado,
Oh
but
wow.
a handful of us, a handful of us hopped off the bus after Saturday, and we flew from Salt Lake City back home for a few days. But
And then
yeah, we'll leave back out Thursday and do some shows in Iowa.
nice. Yeah. And are you still writing? Like, do you write a lot, or when you get the album out and kind of when it comes to live shows and touring, you're just kind of like, okay, it's time to chill and just
Yeah,
focus on that.
no, it's everything all the time. Like, uh, I've already got a couple songs written for the next project or the next singles we want to do, whatever we decide to do. And I'm going back to write in August, at the beginning of August, again for a couple days in between shows. So
Wow.
I don't plan on stopping. I just want to keep being productive while we're in this creative bubble. I don't want to just stop because we got the album out. I think we
Dude,
should just keep working.
I love it, man. Well, thank you
Yeah.
again so much for doing this, Pecos. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, man.
I've I have one more question. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
You just got to work your ass off, really. Um, be real, be different, and be yourself. And don't settle for anything. Don't settle for a song. If you don't like it, rework it, but don't overthink it. Don't settle for the business side of things. And just don't forget who you are. That's the main thing. Don't change.
Bringing it backward.